All right, let's jump into another deep dive. Today we're looking at Russia's newly upgraded Tu-160M bomber. It's been making headlines, and we wanted to take a closer look. So we've pulled some really interesting articles from Aviation Week 1945 and the National Interest. Each one's got a kind of different take on this powerful aircraft. And by the end, you'll know all about the White Swan's capabilities. Oh, and we'll also dive into its Cold War history and why Russia's bringing it back now, and what it could mean for global security, especially for NATO.
Yeah, it's a it's a fascinating story. It's really like a bridge between the past and the present and raises some big questions about the future of strategic air power.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. For those who might not be familiar, paint us a picture of this white swan. What are we looking at here?
So imagine this, a massive, sleek, white aircraft with variable sweep wings. And it can reach supersonic speeds. We're talking Mach 2 plus. And it's actually the world's heaviest bomber. And it can carry a huge payload of both conventional bombs and nuclear-tipped cruise missiles.
Sounds pretty intimidating. So how does this upgraded M model differ from the original Tu-160? The one that first flew back in the 80s. Is it just like a fresh coat of paint, or did they actually add some new gadgets?
Oh, it's way more than just a cosmetic makeover.
Yeah.
The Tu-160M boasts these new NK3202 engines. So that significantly boosts its range and performance. And they've completely revamped the avionics, added an updated radio electronic warfare system, a new control system, and even, get this, a low observable coating.
Wait, hold on. Stealth on the White Swan? Now that's a twist. But, some experts are saying that these upgrades might be more about appearances than actual effectiveness on a modern battlefield. What do you think about that?
That's a good point. While these upgrades definitely modernize the Tu-160M, they don't change its core design. So the question is, how much does that low observable coating really improve its stealth? Is it enough to make a difference against advanced radar systems?
Yeah.
That's something we'll have to wait and see.
You've got me curious now. If these upgrades don't make it truly stealthy, why is Russia investing so much in bringing this bomber back? I mean, they're aiming for over 50 new Tu-160Ms on top of upgrading the existing fleet. That's a pretty big commitment.
Yeah, it is a significant investment, especially considering the current economic situation in Russia. And you also have to consider the delays with their next generation stealth bomber program, the PAC-DA. So it seems like the Tu-160M is filling a crucial gap in their long-range strike capabilities while they wait for the PAC-DA to get off the ground, so to speak.
So it's kind of like they're hedging their bets, keeping their options open.
Exactly. They're signaling that they're not backing down from their strategic goals, even with the challenges they're facing.
And that signal was definitely amplified when Putin himself took a 30-minute flight in a Tu-160M back in February 2024. Some might see it as a publicity stunt, but was it truly strategically significant, or more about optics?
Well, it was definitely a calculated move, with both domestic and international audiences in mind. On the one hand, it showcased the revitalized Russian aerospace industry and projected an image of strength. But on the other hand, it was a very deliberate reminder to the world, particularly to NATO, of Russia's nuclear capabilities and its commitment to maintaining its nuclear triad.
And speaking of NATO, I think that's where this deep dive gets really interesting. What are the implications of a larger, more capable Tu-160M fleet for NATO?
Well, it's definitely raising eyebrows in Western capitals. The Tu-160M, with its ability to penetrate deep into enemy territory and carry a significant payload of nuclear weapons, poses a direct challenge to NATO's air defenses. It forces them to reevaluate their strategies and consider potential countermeasures.
So how is NATO responding to this?
They're investing in a multi-layered approach, which includes upgrading their own air defense systems, developing more advanced fighter jets, and exploring new tactics for countering supersonic bombers.
It sounds like a high-stakes chess game is playing out.
Absolutely. And it's a game with potentially global consequences.
It's fascinating how something like a bomber can cause such a complex geopolitical dance. But let's shift gears for a second and talk about the different viewpoints within Russia about the Tu-160M. What's driving the skepticism about this program? Is it all about cost effectiveness, or are there deeper concerns about Russia's overall military strategy?
Well, it's a bit of both, actually. You've got the economic realists. They question whether the resources going to the Tu-160M could be better spent elsewhere, especially given the sanctions and the strain on Russia's economy. They argue that that modernizing a Cold War era bomber, even with with all these upgrades, it's ultimately a short-sighted solution.
So they're basically saying it's like throwing good money after bad.
Yeah, in a way.
Hmm.
They believe that that focusing on truly next-generation technologies would be, a better investment. Things like hypersonic missiles and advanced drone systems.
Hmm.
They argue those are the weapons that are gonna they'll define the future of warfare, not refurbished bombers from the past.
That's a pretty compelling argument. What about the other side of the debate? What are the 2-160M's proponents saying?
Well, for them, it's about more than just military hardware. It's about symbolism. It's about national pride. They see the Tu-160M as was a really powerful embodiment of Russia's resurgent military might, a symbol that they're back on the world stage, as a major player.
It's almost like a flying billboard for their national identity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It sends a message both domestically and internationally that Russia is not to be messed with. And they also point out the bomber's practical capabilities. They argue that it gives Russia a credible nuclear deterrent, especially given the ongoing tensions with the West.
They're basically saying, don't underestimate us. We still have the firepower to defend our interests.
Exactly. They see the Tu-160M as a key part of Russia's nuclear triad, making sure they can respond to any threat, no matter where it comes from.
So you've got these two competing narratives, one focused on pragmatism and future-oriented technologies, the other on symbolism and maintaining that strong nuclear deterrent. It's a really interesting dilemma, and it makes you wonder if Russia might be making a similar mistake to what some analysts believe the U.S. made with its B-1 Lancer program.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. The B-1, like the Tu-160, is a supersonic bomber developed back in the Cold War,
Yeah.
and it's also gone through modernization efforts to keep it flying. So, looking at the U.S. approach with the B-1, do you see any lessons there for Russia? Could they have taken a different approach to design and ended up with a more effective bomber?
That's a great question. It is interesting to think about how different strategic priorities and technological choices have shaped how these two bombers have evolved. On the surface, they look pretty similar, with those swept wings and supersonic capabilities. But how do their roles differ, and what does that tell us about the strategic thinking behind them?
Well, the Tu-160M, as we talked about, is mainly designed as a standoff weapons platform.
Right.
So its primary role is to launch long-range cruise missiles, both conventional and nuclear,
Mhm.
from a safe distance. It's not really made for penetrating heavily defended airspace or engaging in close combat.
So it's more about projecting power from a distance than getting involved in direct confrontations.
Yeah, exactly. It's about delivering a decisive blow without putting the aircraft itself at too much risk. The B-1, on the other hand, was initially designed as a high-speed, low-altitude penetrator, capable of evading enemy radar and delivering a payload of conventional bombs.
But that role has changed over time, right?
It has, with with more advanced air defense systems, the B-1's low-altitude penetration capabilities became less viable. So the U.S. Air Force shifted its focus, turning the B-1 into mainly a standoff platform similar to the Tu-160M. Now it relies heavily on long-range cruise missiles to hit targets from beyond enemy defenses.
So both bombers have, in a way, converged on a similar mission set, even though they have different origins.
That's right, and it highlights a broader trend in modern warfare.
Yeah.
Where the focus is more and more on standoff capabilities
Mhm.
and reducing the risk to pilots in these expensive aircraft.
It's a good reminder that the nature of warfare is always evolving, driven by technological advancements and shifting strategic priorities. Makes you think about the future of strategic bombing, doesn't it? I mean, are these huge expensive aircraft still relevant in an age of drones and hypersonic missiles and increasingly sophisticated air defenses?
That's the big question, isn't it? And there's no easy answer. I mean, as we've been talking about, both the Tu-160M and the B-1 have they've evolved to adapt to the changing threats. They've become primarily standoff platforms relying on those long-range cruise missiles to hit targets from from a safe distance.
So they're trying to stay ahead of the curve, right?
Yeah,
Using their range and payload capacity to stay relevant in a world where, we're getting close to the target is getting riskier and riskier. Yeah.
exactly. But the question is, for how long can they can they keep that up as air defense systems get even more advanced?
Yeah.
And as hypersonic missiles become more common, the survivability of even these upgraded bombers, it might be in question.
Almost like a technological arms race.
That's right.
A constant back and forth between, offensive and defensive capabilities.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why this whole debate within Russia over the Tu-160M is so interesting. It reflects kind of a bigger strategic question. Do you invest in upgrading these older systems like the White Swan, or do you just go all in on developing completely new technologies?
Yeah.
Things that might be better suited to the future of warfare.
It's like deciding whether to renovate an old house or build a brand new one. Both options have their pluses and minuses.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And in the end, the decision comes down to a really complicated calculation. You got to think about costs and benefits and risks and of course strategic priorities. There's no one right answer.
Sounds like Russia is trying to to hedge its bets by doing a bit of both. They're still putting money into the Tu-160M, but they're also pushing forward with developing that PAC-DA stealth bomber, which we haven't really talked much about.
Right, the PAC-DA. That's their next generation stealth bomber. It's still it's still pretty shrouded in secrecy. But it's designed to be a truly modern strategic bomber, incorporating advanced stealth tech hypersonic capabilities and a whole bunch of sophisticated electronic warfare systems.
So it's meant to be their answer to the B-2 Spirit and the upcoming B-21 Raider in the U.S.
Exactly. But as we've seen, developing that kind of advanced aircraft, it's a complex process. It takes time. There have been some delays, and it's not clear when the PAC-DA will actually be ready to fly.
Which brings us back to the Tu-160M. It's like a bridge between the past and the future, right? For Russian strategic aviation, filling in that crucial gap while they wait for the PAC-DA to become a reality.
Exactly. It's a real symbol of their commitment to maintaining a credible nuclear deterrent, even as they're looking ahead to the next generation of air power.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. We went from the technical specs of this amazing aircraft to its strategic implications, the different opinions within Russia, and even those bigger questions about the future of strategic bombing.
Yeah.
It's been a fascinating deep dive,
Yeah.
and I'm sure you'll agree.
Oh, I completely agree. The Tu-160M is it's more than just a bomber. It's a glimpse into the complex world of geopolitics and technological innovation and the ever-changing nature of warfare.
Hey, a huge thank you to you, our expert, for guiding us through this complex topic, with such clarity and insight. And to you, our listener, we hope this deep dive has given you the knowledge to understand the significance of the Tu-160M, and to have informed discussions about its role in global security.
It's been my pleasure.
And remember,
Yeah.
keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a talk that's sure to spark your curiosity. Until then, keep those wings level.